Now we're doing the fun part, hooking up the boats and hauling them to the creek. Thanks to Johnny's wife Cynthia for taking the trailer back. We don't have to wait on a turnaround. We're just going to be able to go, which is really nice, isn't it, Johnny?
It is wonderful.
Yeah. And this is Greg and Cindy. They're going with us today. First time I've ever canoed with them.
And probably your last.
They've got lots of miles on this creek as well. This is Murder Creek. And this place used to have a bridge, so it's called Red Wine Bridge. The bridge was washed away in a flood. And the creek is running about, what, 6 or 7 inches higher than normal?
Yeah.
So we're starting off on a Friday morning at almost 10 o'clock, October 1st. Not much chill in the air in South Alabama right now. Tonight it'll be cooler. The creek itself is still almost summertime warm. We ran this trip last year in late October and it was chilly at night, and the trees are still leafed out. The creek's still looks like summer. You can kind of feel a touch of fall in the air. If you're from the north, you probably wonder why I'm saying a touch of fall in the air the 1st of October. I imagine there's more than a touch, but down here it won't frost unless it's an unusual year for about 2 more months. The high water takes you over a lot of things, but it takes you into a lot of things as well. If you'll look in the link in the description below, I'll have an article posted on how Murder Creek got its name. The creek banks are covered in birch trees and sycamores. The woods have an abundance of wildlife. And because this creek moves and meanders like it does, you see it makes turns, undercuts, and causes the death of lots of trees, which then land in the creek, and then you have to dodge them. So there's a big water oak that's decided it would join us in the creek. This little sandbar we used to eat lunch on, you can see that sandbars change. Can't eat lunch on it now hardly. Up ahead you can see the foam in the creek. They all say it's dissolved phosphates that cause that foam, and it is harmless as far as we know. We just spent 5 fun-filled minutes getting over this log back here. It'd have been worse if the water was low. In canoeing, as opposed to hiking, you might carry my pack weighs about 30 pounds on the very worst day, hopefully about 23. Well, this boat we probably have 200 pounds of gear plus ourselves, so the difference is considerable in how much weight you've got. It's also considerable in how much luxury you've got compared to hiking. A lot of these sandbars have airheads, and we spend a little time on lots of them looking for them, occasionally finding one. The guy behind me in the boat, Johnny, can find them way better than I can. This is a place where there used to be kind of a lake, and the creek kind of just can't decide where it wants to go as it cuts through this lake area. So part of it goes over here, and part of it goes this way. All the creeks in Escambia County have this limestone that used to be part of an ancient seabed. And here you can see the fossils sticking out of the piece of limestone of the sea creatures that live in that seabed. The problem with this limestone is it'll cut your feet. This old boat's been hanging around in Murder Creek for about 20 years. And this spider's been hanging around our boat for about the last 5 minutes. The creek is characteristically full of cypress trees. There's the bottom of one. And then over here are the cypress knees that come from the roots. We've been canoeing, Johnny and I have been canoeing this creek for almost 50 years. And this is actually Conecuh County, Alabama. You run into some places where the limestone comes close to the top, and that's what makes this ripple that we're getting ready to go through. It's really stress relieving. You're retired, aren't you?
Yep.
So the stress is gone now. Here are 3 scallops. Now they may not be fossils if they exist today, but they could be a different species of scallop. Anyway, they're definitely an artifact. These soapstone clay banks are characteristic of Murder Creek as well. This creek used to be called a river, and when the murder happened at the mouth of the creek, they changed its name to Murder Creek. Those snags are all an opportunity to turn your boat over. This is the tried and true sandbar we've camped on for years, and it has grown up. This is not a fossil, this is a mussel shell. The creek is full of mussels, which are a clam-like creature. The key is not to hit the log. The problem with bypassing that sandbar is there's only about 2 more to camp on the first day before you get over halfway. So we'll be picking one of the next 2 or 3. No, it won't be this one. You'd have to sleep standing up on that one. The creek's changing now. As you can see, it's starting to have bluffs. Our rate of speed on the creek is about 2.8 miles per hour. This sandbar is what we would call hairy. Nobody wants to sleep in that because of the red bugs. Here the creek has not only cut out a bank, but it's left the trees standing. I hope you don't hit that. Ooh, wow, that was fun. Well, somebody's bush hogged the road, but this looks like the best option anyway. Well, we're getting a firewood together. Well, we're camping at 1:30, and it's pretty hot for October the 1st. What you think, Johnny?
It's pretty warm.
It's pretty warm. Now we'll have the #1 sandbar pastime. Rock skipping. Well, here we are waking up on the second day. The water dropped about 2 inches last night. It's become clearer. Cindy found this scoot from an ancient turtle or some other creature on one of the sandbars. Turn it over. Breaking camp's one of the least pleasant jobs you do because everything's got dew on it. So here we leave on Saturday, October the 2nd. This is river birch that has taken this bank over. It holds the bank, grows very fast. This saw log never made it to Pensacola. Cypress knees line the banks. And the railroad track runs the length of the creek, so you hear trains all the time. There's a limestone. Alright, here's the break that is really troublesome, and I'm going to put the camera away. Sorry. So here we are stuck in it. I'm giving Johnny time to put his shoes on. I put mine on. And the only way to get through this is to stop and walk your boat through. The problem is that its depths are so varying on a day like today that you can't figure out where to put your feet. I mean, this is really a dangerous place. The creek has changed a great deal at this end. It's throwing a sandbar here in the middle. This is the place the water used to flow over to the left, and it was a waterfall, and to the right, which was a really hard rapids. And this is kind of the dam for all that water upstream. It has changed in the last 40 years to the point where there's no waterfall anymore. and the only place to go is to the right. This sandbar, which has grown up in sycamores, is the sandbar that we camped with 44 people the first time we took a large group from Landmark Church of Christ in Montgomery. And we had room for everybody to camp on the sandbar. Now you'd have to hack your way in there and camp in the woods. These are manatee rib bones, we think. That's what at least I've been told. And Greg and Cindy found them above the waterfall. The creek widens out below the waterfall and starts putting a sandbar up about on every bend. I'm not sure where this MRE came from, probably Drew, my son. But the heater didn't work, so good old jet boil will work every time. This is Kirkland Bridge, what we kind of consider halfway. Up ahead you can see the bridge pilings clearly that are waiting to turn you over if you're not careful. Kirkland is a very popular swimming hole, or it was for years. Putting in here at Kirkland, there's a ramp that goes into the water. Easy put in. Makes for a really good day trip from Kirkland to Brewton. Here's a nice little stream coming in on the right side. Cypress knees. Around this bend is a tree we used to jump out of every time we took a group. And a youth minister from Atlanta lost his wedding ring there, and it was lost in 5 feet of this creek water, and they found it. And so he was just so happy. And about 4 or 5 years later, he was at the same place wearing the same wedding ring and lost it again. And so somewhere right here is a wedding ring, because he wasn't lucky the second time. For everybody that's jumped out of that tree, if you'll note, it's not there anymore. It finally fell in. This is really pretty as we go into the teeth of a wind. We hope it doesn't bring a big cloud. And we're hoping that we're pretty close to a sandbar if this rain comes. Yeah. So we've canoed about a half a mile through a rainstorm. It wasn't too hard, but for the first time in 30 years, I didn't bring a poncho, and we've enjoyed ourselves sitting in the rain for the last little while. This camera is not waterproof, so I took a chance getting it out here for just a second. This is a railroad bridge from not too terribly long ago. This one's relatively in good shape. Coming in on the left is the Cedar Creek. And it's really sandy. And the timber company that owns this land around us is named after Cedar Creek, Cedar Creek Land and Timber Company. So we've picked a sandbar, and it's pretty flat. And it doesn't take long to turn a sandbar into home. Now these guys put in at Kirkland, they're doing a day trip. Johnny's building the deluxe rain shelter. Well, it's a rainy Sunday morning. Unexpected rain. Started yesterday, rained in the evening, and we're having to pack up in a hurry and get out of here. This old railroad bridge crosses the creek kind of obliquely, and it is a difficult one sometimes. But here's the bridge, and the creek has changed, so they didn't really build the bridge right down the creek. Here's more tornado damage. Other than the murder that this creek was named after, that you'll have to read about in in the description below. This creek is also gives its name to a football rivalry between the two high schools in East Brewton and Brewton, W.S. Neal and T.R. Miller. The Battle of Murder Creek is a famous high school rivalry and one of the greatest in the country. This is an on-again, off-again park in East Brewton called Fort Crawford. A quarter mile from Fort Crawford to the bridge in East Brewton, and the creek just meanders around through land on the right that belongs to the mill. I spent 4 lovely summers working at that mill. Convinced me that I wanted to graduate from college for sure. So we've paddled 20 miles from Red Wine Bridge to East Brewton. So there's the famous Murder Creek Bridge. So this town is prone to flooding because of Murder Creek and another creek that runs into it, Burnt Corn. And when they come together and there's nowhere for the water to go, it goes into the town.